Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and this one's kind of a doozy. This is probably one of Oxford's best offerings of, if not all time, probably of at least the era that it came from, which I'm assuming is around 1946, judging by the stamps in the back. But this is a long primer with references, and it's printed on India paper, and it also has a black Levant Morocco cover. Now, Levant Morocco is essentially goat skin, but it has this very unique, very deep pattern. So let's go ahead and take a look. And you can see that pattern. Let's start with the Levant leather right out the gate. So you can see this really deep, really nice pattern. And this is kind of what Levant Morocco was known for. We'll take a look here. You can see that there is a perimeter line all around the edge of it. And then on the spine, we have Holy Bible Concordance. And then we have Oxford Self-Pronouncing Edition. And there are some rib indications. These are not raised. They're just kind of pressed in on the sides. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And then on the back here, you have that continuation of the perimeter line and that amazingly great grain. Now, this grain is very tactile. It has a very, just a very good feel to it. It's a very soft, very soft cover. And it does have, I mean, just a very, I don't know, very textured grain. I don't know. It's very nice to the touch. I can see why this was so popular back in the day, to be honest with you. Now we'll take a look at the inside corner work there. And then it is stamped with Levant Morocco, and it is leather lined and nylon sewn. And you can see here, I've mentioned it in some other videos before, but this leather is given a texture, and it's almost like a kind of a crisscross pattern here, and it has like kind of like little squares. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but this is one of the Bibles that I kind of mentioned where they try and match this leather with the paper on the opposite side. So if you look at this paper, and again, I don't know how well the camera's going to be able to pick it up, but I don't know if the camera's picking it up at all. But from where I'm sitting, you can see that basically the texture on this paper mimics the texture on this liner, and maybe vice versa. Maybe they give the liner the texture and match the paper. I don't know. But either way, it matches, so it's a pretty similar look and feel on both sides. But this is a paper end sheet here, and it is edge lined, so you can see that the leather here goes up onto the book block. I'll take a look at the back. You can see the corner work as well there on the bottom, and then there's nothing imprinted on the back. So let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see this nice vintage long primer. I'll take a look. You have the end sheet there. You have a attached sheet, kind of a thicker paper, not really a cardstock, just a thicker paper. 3 blank sheets, and then you get to the title page. You see it says the Oxford Self-Pronouncing Bible, the Holy Bible, containing Old and New Testaments. And this is the Authorized King James Version, of course. And then at the bottom we can see there it does say long primer, 8VO, refs, Pron for pronouncing, and then India. So it's got the long primer font. It's the 8VO size. It does have references. It is pronouncing, and it is on India paper. Like I said, this is probably their flagship edition. It seems to have all the bells and whistles they could possibly offer. It even has 2 ribbons, which is pretty rare for vintage Bibles. You didn't see this very often. Sorry. Well, let's go back on the outside for a second here. I totally forgot to show you guys parts of it. But so you can see there the head and tail bands that it has have gotten yellowed over the years. I think typically Oxford head and tail bands were white, but these have certainly yellowed. And this is a very well-used Bible, indicated by the gilt. You can see there it's kind of been worn off on the edges, and it's kind of all scratched up. And the paper on the inside kind of matches. It was very well-used Bible. You can see here the edge actually in the corner. I'll point this out to you. So this is a little bit of wear. This is what it tends to look like. It gets brown. I have a solution that I put on this to kind of prevent it from getting any worse. I'll go ahead and link that down below if you guys get into vintage Bibles. It's just something you apply real quick. You kind of paint it on. But the 2 ribbons here you can see are sadly very, I don't know if these were poor at the time, but the quality is just kind of blah. I don't even know what I would compare them to. It almost feels like a single-sided ribbon, maybe that's worn away over the years. But they're certainly very thin and very narrow. So there you go. So back to the inside of the Bible. Sorry about running you guys back and forth like that. We have the title page there. And you have the back of the title page that says printed in the United States of America, surprisingly. And then you have the epistle dedicatory there. Now this paper is exquisitely thin, albeit it is India paper, but it's very thin. You have the end of the epistle dedicatory there. You have the table of contents, and then you have a prefatory note by Henry A. Redpath, M.A. And you have the table of signs that are used in this book, and you have the first book of Moses called Genesis. I'll go ahead and pull you guys in nice and tight there so you can see it. I'm going to pause halfway down. Files at the bottom there. I'll turn a couple pages in so we can get a feel for more of the features. So what we have is your kind of standardized long primer, layout here. You have the running headers up at the top, right? And you have running headers for each column. So you have 4 of them. Then you have the book and chapter numbers that are associated with that page. You do have the Unger's chronology there, and then you have your center column references. And there are little kind of brief chapter summaries there. I'll show it to you. Some brief chapter summaries there at the beginning of each chapter. You do have a double line drop cap, and it is a double column verse by verse. And there are no footnotes, no translator's footnotes at the bottom. We'll kind of flip through some of it. It does look like they made some attempt to kind of line up the cross-references with where they're located on the page, which is nice. And if you guys didn't notice, it does look like they, maybe not here, of course, because I was going to call it out, but it does look like they economize on certain books of the Bible. If there's enough room, they'll begin the next book on the same page there at the end of it. Now, here is Psalms. I'm going to take a look at that beautiful layout. Granted, it is not poetic, any sort of poetic formatting, but it still looks nice nonetheless. Go and get you in real close so you can see this great India paper. It is very opaque, even considering how thin it is. This paper is to the point of being so thin that it is hard to kind of flip through accurately. So just a side note there, but the show through is minimal at best. And there is no sort of kind of like line matching done, but you don't really need it with this paper, to be honest with you. And there's the end of the prophets and the New Testament title page. It is a black letter text, so you're just going to see that same black letter. It is very nicely printed. There is very little print irregularity between the pages. It's a pretty good print. I mean, they did an outstanding job, Oxford, and I really wouldn't expect less given the overall quality of the entire Bible. So let's take a look at the last page of Revelation there. See, very hard to turn, not gonna lie. So you have your final page there at the end. There is a little stamp there, maybe for the initial printing of the book block for the biblical text. And then we'll get into the helps. There's quite a bit of them. So you have the Dictionary of Scripture Proper Names, a subject index, and a concordance. And it is looks like the Minion font on 8VO. So we'll kind of chunk through some of this. If I can turn the pages. They are so hard to turn. And the thing is, they're so thin that you can't tell if you have 1 or 2 pages, So here's the Scripture Proper Names Dictionary of Scripture Proper Names. Goodness. I'll get through that. And then we have your subject index there. I'd love to show you the beginning of it, but I don't want to spend 40 minutes flipping through individual pages. So this is what you get. I'll zoom in, though, so you guys can get a nice close view there. And I guess it is nice because there is a little bit of a margin here because it is that Minion. So, you get a little bit of a margin there. After the subject index, you do get the concordance, and I'll show you a little bit of that concordance. And we'll go past the concordance. And this is a very beefy concordance. There's a ton of entries here. Oh, goodness. I feel like I'm going to be here forever. Is this 2 pages? It is. Look, right where we need to be. So this is the indexed atlas to the Holy Bible. I call it instead of a gazetteer. And so you have your index for the maps here, and then you have a few maps at the end. Now these are the older Oxford maps, obviously, because this is a vintage Bible. So they're going to take some getting used to. I certainly don't mind them. I don't think they're terrible, to be honest with you. Even though the coloration here is a little crazy, the text is still pretty easy to read. And actually, I'll get you guys in close so you can see. So you can believe it with your own eyes, maybe. I don't know how well the camera shows it. I'll flip through a couple of these pages here. Very nice, these vintage maps. Then you have a couple blank sheets. And then you have your last page there, and you do have the code there. So it says T1246, so I'm assuming December 1946. And then it has a code of, it looks like maybe 0 or Q8680X. So if you guys happen to see a Bible with the same code in the back, this would be a review for it if you're curious. So let's go ahead and get some measurements and some other goodness out of it. So we'll start with the height of the Bible. And it is just at 9 inches tall. And it is 6 inches wide, so it's a 9x6. Lovely size, my personal favorite, to be honest. And it is a little bit more than an inch. It's about 1 1/8 thick. So, pretty good size. I mean, a nice big size. I'm a fan of bigger Bibles. A nice bigger size, but still quite thin and portable. Let's take a look on the inside, and we'll do some font comparisons here. Start with the capitals. We'll start with the R here and remember. And it looks to be about a 9-point font. Maybe a 9.5 for capitals versus Times New Roman. And look at the M right next to it. And the M is a little bit bigger, which is nice. It looks to be about a 10 or 10.5 point font. I'd call it 10. So we'll say it's about a 10-point font here in this long primer, which is a nice readable size. 10 point I feel like is a pretty good size there for just kind of a day-to-day deal, you know. So let's go ahead and do a comparison. And I have, I don't really have, you know, I would imagine, you know, obviously the best comparison would be like an Allen long primer, but I don't have like a 53 or 52. I have like a 53C and a 63, and I don't feel like those are good comparisons. So I'm going to compare it to something less expensive, I guess, ish, and close to the same size. So I have a Concord by Cambridge, and I feel like that's probably a better comparison, right? I mean, they're closer to the same size instead of the 63 so huge and the 53C so chunky. Yeah, either way, this is a Concord. So go ahead and compare the sizes right quick. You can see that the Oxford and Levant is ever so slightly longer, maybe, I don't know, 1/4 inch. And they're about the same width. And then as far as thickness is concerned, the Oxford is going to be thinner only because it's on that India paper there. But otherwise, the footprint is very similar. So you can see here the nice, yeah. So let's take a look at the text real quick. The Oxford is on the left. The Cambridge is on the right. And there's a comparison for you. Let's get it in frame, shall we? So you can see that the Cambridge obviously has, brighter, wider paper. Granted, this is older and it has been well used. So there's going to be some oxidation here with this paper. Let me try and get you guys closer here so you can get a good comparison. Now, the fonts seem to be pretty similar, not going to lie. The Cambridge maybe outdoes it just by a hair, but I feel like it's close enough to be a fair comparison between the two models. So definitely, if you guys find the Oxford, any of the Oxford long primers are very nicely done. This just happens to be kind of the nicest model. If you can't find an Oxford long primer, I guess you could go with Allen or Cambridge. Just be prepared to pony up some money. These you can find, Oxford long primers come up kind of regularly on eBay. I want to say maybe, goodness, I probably see one like once every other week or something like that. And they tend to fetch slightly higher prices only because, it's a long primer. Every once in a while somebody will sell one and they don't really know what they have, so the price can get not so expensive. But if it's a nicer version like this, I would imagine you can probably expect to pay a little bit more. So, but just hunt and you'll find. That's the good thing about eBay. Give it some time and you'll find a deal on something. So, Bible Buddies, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, all that stuff, you could please like and subscribe, all down below. Otherwise, Bible Buddies, I will see you next time. Bye.